Hi, my name is Stephen Leighton, and I'm making this video about my great-great-aunt, Nan Dixon. She was my great-grandfather Paul Leighton's sister. A little bit of background. My great-great-grandparents Arthur and Josie Leighton had 9 children, and their firstborn was Nan, who was born Nancy Cecile Leighton. Many called her Nan, some called her Seal. I'm going to try and leave out my own opinions from this video because there's a lot of family arguments about what really happened. I'm going to say what we know and voice some opinions from others, but I won't agree or disagree with any of these opinions. Nan had 6 brothers that lived to adulthood: Harry, John, Paul, Howard, James, and Dan, and one sister, Arlene. Harry lived 2 hours out from Lovelock in Pershing County, Nevada. He lived on a lease with his wife Lula in an area in the old Seven Troughs mining town. They were some of the only people left there at that point, although they had moved in a while after it had been mostly abandoned. Dan was often up there with Harry, and they were going to mine for gold up there. They asked for loans from all the siblings, Nan and my great-grandfather included, but I'm not sure if the others gave them money or not. So they get all this money, $6,000 being from Nan, but they ended up not doing any mining at all. And the excuse was that it wasn't the right type of mining equipment or something like that. So they were just sitting on all this money. I don't know if they were trying to rip their siblings off or what. Knowing the Leightons were rather interesting people, not people you'd consider upstanding citizens, but I'll save those stories for another day. Anyways, the road to the lease was a dirt road out in the middle of nowhere, and it took 2 hours or so to get there from Highway 80. It was September 21st, 1978, that Nan, age 73, was living in Grass Valley at the time with her third husband, Bob Dixon, began her trip to the Leighton lease to get her $6,000 back from her brother Harry. But she never arrived. A purchase on her credit card said she bought $4.18 worth of gas at Texaco in Lovelock, so they knew she'd at least made it to Lovelock. Of course, everyone went looking for her: police, detectives, her family, etc. They combed the whole desert. Neither Nan herself, her car, or any clues were found for 4 years. As 4 years went by, in 1982, Nan's '76 B210 lime green Datsun was discovered out in the desert, in a place detectives had previously searched, and there were fresh tire marks, meaning someone had deliberately drove the car out to that spot. There was some evidence found in the car, the first being duct tape with hair and, quote, possible human tissue attached, meaning that perhaps Nan was bound by duct tape. The hair was never proven or disproven to be Nan's or not. There was also what was thought to be blood on a tire and in the trunk of the car. There were also 4 packs of cigarettes found in the car. Nan was known to have smoked, but only lightly, and these cigarettes were not her usual brand. Make of that what you will, but Ventura County Sheriff Deputy Bill Davis thought that there certainly had been foul play based on all of this evidence. However, Pershing County sheriffs were more inclined to believe it was a suicide, as there was what is thought to have been a suicide note left by Nan. There were some stains on the note, so the full text of the note was lost, but from what we can make out from it, we're pretty sure part of it says, keeps telling me to use my gun and end my nightmare, but this I'll never do, for God gives life, only God can take life. Committing suicide is an unpardonable sin, and I will never be. Nan was not believed to be suicidal at the time she left, so it seemed unlikely she drove out there to kill herself. Many believe the suicide note was made under duress. In other words, she was forced to write it. If it really was a suicide, why was there no clear evidence of a suicide? Where was the body? And why was the car driven to this location after 4 years? Another strange and shady thing is that the car was auctioned off a few years later and all the other evidence was, quote, lost. This was obviously crucial evidence to the case. If that doesn't sound murky, then I don't know what is. It was said by some that there was some corruption going on within the Pershing County Sheriff's Department. With all this being said, there are a number of theories about how her death occurred. The first one, as we've already somewhat discussed, was that she killed herself as a result of being stranded or lost. Maybe her car died, or she was simply lost and stranded out in the barren desert in the heat without food or water. Maybe she ran off after writing the note trying to find help using her last strength and she died out there and animals ate her body. It's a possibility, although unlikely. But of course we will never know. Again, though, if it was a suicide, why was the car moved? I guess it's possible some teenagers went for a joyride, but it's doubtful considering the circumstances. Another theory is that it was a serial killer and Nan was one of his victims. This one is also not too likely. If it was a serial killer, shouldn't there be other victims who died in a similar way? If there was a desert killer, I'm sure their MO would have been known and someone would have made the connection by now. A third theory is that she was killed because she wanted her money back from her brother Harry, and that her brother did not want to give any back. Maybe her brother did it himself, or he had somebody do his dirty work for him. The last theory is that she may have witnessed a drug drop via airplane in the area, and due to drug lords not wanting witnesses, she may have been killed because of what she may have accidentally witnessed. There were some rumors of drug drops going on in the area around this time, possibly involving a member or two of the sheriff's department. I know that is a serious accusation, but it isn't unheard of for corrupt cops to be involved in something shady. It was also said that a neighbor or two mysteriously vanished overnight after allegedly witnessing these drops. I'm not sure if that means they were warned and left without saying anything, or if something actually happened to them. All hearsay, of course. One of the Pershing County Sheriff deputies was said to have been involved in some sort of drug operation, and that his partner was Butch Leighton, Harry's son. The operation was rumored to involve airdrops in a store that was a front for the drug operation. Of course, a lot of this is hearsay, so make of it what you will. Butch was buddies with a Bob Hagerman, who may have been the sheriff's deputy. Not sure on this one, but I'm sure Bob Hagerman was one of his close friends, as many have told me before. A lot of people suspect Butch to be involved, as he was the black sheep of his family. Many described him as a bad person. Again, I will refrain from stating my own opinions on him, and I will only talk about what I know about him and what others suspect. I know that Butch and my grandfather, Steve Leighton, who I'm named after, were cousins around the same age, and they were once driving out in the desert when they were young adults. They ended up getting into a car accident of some sort that left my grandfather with a broken back. Instead of trying to help my grandfather, Butch just left him there to die. Thankfully, someone found and rescued my grandfather, or else I wouldn't be here making this video right now. There were also some accusations from Butch's younger female cousins that he molested them when they were around the age of 10. I will not state who they are to protect their privacy, but regarding these accusations, I will say that I have heard from family members that they were told never to be alone with him when they were kids. There was another story that Butch had stolen a car from a dealership he worked at near Reno, and he gave it to his two sons. The car ended up being repoed later, and his sons were the ones in trouble for stealing it. I've also heard he had scars all over his stomach from being stabbed, and that he had also committed a string of robberies and had money buried out in the desert. Again, some of this is hearsay, of course. I will not say for sure if all these accusations about Butch are true or not, as I did not personally witness them and I don't want to speculate. He died in 2005, so there is no way of knowing for sure. Moving on from Butch, I had also heard that Harry's wife, Lula, who had a habit of making porcelain dolls, hid gold inside them. More hearsay, but it is possible Harry and family actually did mine up some gold and just kept the money from his siblings. Again, though, more hearsay. With all that being said, Nan's children were relentless with their efforts to uncover the truth. Her son Vic Mansfield died a few years after Nan disappeared from, quote, a suspicious logging accident, but her other son Don Mansfield spent thousands on private investigators trying to find his mother's remains along with the truth. After he passed, one of his children, who I will not name by name to respect their privacy, has continued to search for Nan and the truth, spending much time and money on the matter. There were some remains found out in the desert 7 or 8 years ago that were thought to have been Nan's, but they have since been proven not to be. The Leighton family these days is very divided on this issue. There is a lot of the family not talking to each other anymore. There have been some nasty arguments. Many suspect Butch, while on the other hand, many think Butch was a saint. I'm not saying Butch killed her, but he certainly had issues for sure. Will we ever know what happened to Nan Dixon? At this point, probably not. The only hope is that new evidence is found or someone comes forward. Since this all occurred 40 years ago, it is unlikely that anything turns up. Not many people are alive anymore that were familiar with the situation's entirety. Her body may have been buried deep in the ground or animals may have eaten and scattered her remains. A lot of these things I've presented are based on hearsay, but Nan definitely did disappear and her remains haven't been found. It is, however, abundantly clear that there was foul play involved. Something shady went down. So that is my account of the story of Nan Dixon's disappearance. If you find this video interesting or have questions, feel free to contact me. I hope you all enjoyed this video and I hope that someday the truth will come forward. Thank you for watching.